Hello there, and welcome to the first episode of the Journeyman Music Show. I'm super excited. My name is Paul. I make music from my basement, and I'll be co-hosting the show along with Chad.
Yes, true. Hello, I am Chad. I also make music from my basement, and I am also, like Paul, excited to be here.
This is the first episode, so we'll exceptionally start today's podcast by presenting ourselves and introducing you to the show in general. So the Journeyman Music Show is a podcast where we like to talk about any music-related topics. So this could be about writing songs, this could be about music production, or it could be about wider topics like how to stay motivated and how to find time for your hobbies, despite having a very busy life. If there's any topic that you would like us to discuss, of course, feel free to visit our website at inspiredsongwriter.com or drop us an email. This is the idea behind the podcast, so here is a little bit about me. My name is Paul, I'm 27, and I make music from my basement. I live in Paris, I'm a music hobbyist, and I really got into music when I was in middle school. I think I was maybe 13 around the time where I discovered the Beatles. I really got into them like a lot of people. And I got all of their CDs one by one when CDs were still a thing at the time. And a few years later, when I was 15 or 16, I got into playing guitar. So this is where I really started making music and not just be, an active listener. A few months later, I started playing bass. I joined a band with one of my best friends at the time, and we started gigging, which was an awesome experience. And at the time, when I was 15, I was already feeling like it was too late for me to start, which sounds silly now in retrospect, but at the time when I was 15, my best friend had started playing like viola since he was 4 years old. So at the time he already had like 11 to 12 years of experience, and I was just a beginner learning how to play, power chords and really simple melodies on the guitar. So already when I was 15, I was already wondering, is it too late to start? Am I actually going to have the time and the talent to get to a decent level that I can be happy with? And a year later, after we started the band, we started gigging, and that was an awesome experience. And that's one of the experiences that inspired today's episode. So what about you, Chad?
So my story is pretty different, actually. Paul is much more the experienced musician than I am. But I've always been a music fan, right? I mean, most people are, right? But when I was a kid, I was raised largely by a single dad for a while, and he was always singing. He was also a very young guy, so he would hang around with his other young guy friends, and my brother and I would ride around in the car with them, and they would blast Nirvana and The Offspring and stuff, be those kind of guys. And it was great. I loved it. My dad was an awesome singer. I remember asking him when I was a kid, like, why he wasn't a professional singer, and he would just laugh it off. And that was great. Those were some really good memories. And then, so I grew up singing, but didn't really realize that it was a thing that I could do at all until I got really involved in the church as like an adolescent, like a middle schooler. And eventually it came to be that I was singing at church. We had like a praise band. So it was like, the cool kids like singing, like leading the contemporary church songs that we would all sing at the beginning. It was terrible. But that was my first experience singing in front of people. And it was great. And then I went to high school and started singing in choirs and was able to sing in the all-state choir, which was an amazing experience. It's like 100 high schoolers who are just like, singing like all these classical songs and stuff. It was really, really great. And then I kind of just fell out of music for a while. I, always listened to it. When I went to college, I got into some new music and stuff like that, as college kids do, all the like pretentious indie stuff. And that was great. I really loved that. But I wasn't really performing or anything like that. And then up until maybe 6 months ago, I got a guitar when I was 13, and I've always played that on and off, but I wasn't really writing music or making music. And then recently, during pandemic life, I downloaded some software, and I was like, I'm gonna give this a proper try. Signed up for the class that Paul and I took together, and got in with these guys. They've been teaching me a ton. And I'm learning how to do stuff. I've written a couple of songs, and it's awesome. It's super, super fun, and I'm really glad that I have it as a creative outlet.
Yeah, I'm really happy we both took that class. This is where I was going actually. Um, I mean, just to be clear, I started playing, when I was 15 or 16, but I haven't been playing continuously. There were times we played during high school, and after high school, the band split up because we all went to different colleges, and I almost didn't touch my guitar for maybe 6 to 7 years. And then I fell into the same trap when I was, 25. Well, I haven't played it since I was 18. Is it too late to pick it up again? I keep wondering the same questions. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I never learned about anything, but I keep asking myself the same question. Oh, I should have played. If I had kept playing, I would be so awesome at guitar and bass right now. I would be such a good songwriter. Is it too late to pick it up again? And I actually decided to get back into music when I was around 25 or 26. So we reformed the band with my best friend from high school, and we started gigging a little bit. But then I wanted to get into producing and recording and mixing, so I took the class that allowed me to meet Chad. And what is great about this is that both times in my life where I wondered, should I invest myself, my time and my energy into music, it almost instantly led to awesome experiences. When we were playing with my band, we played a lot of different gigs, and some of them were in venues where there were like graffitis and signatures from the Red Hot Chili Peppers and some other bands, and that was really cool. Walking backstage and seeing those like legendary bands like who left a trace there, and we were there like, well, we're just kids. We all picked up our instruments maybe a year ago, and that's an awesome experience. And that was just a year after starting an instrument, and then like 2 years ago when I started getting into music production. It was a little slower because I had less time, as an adult. But a few years later, I'm already starting to produce my music. So is Chad. I think we're both feeling super happy about the journey. And both times where I decided to take the jump, I saw like almost instant progress, and I don't know, it just feels great.
Yeah, for sure. Completely agreed. Although the progress, I think, was maybe a little less instant for me, but that's another important lesson, right? And being able to stick with it even when you start off really, really slow. That's kept me from pursuing so many different hobbies that I was interested in. But yeah, getting started slow is difficult. But when we signed up for this class, I mean, some of the other people that we've met through it are actual legitimate pros who make a living making music and that sort of thing, So it's been so great to have that sort of mentorship, and hopefully that's the sort of thing that we can provide through the show, right? Is as we're learning, we can pass down some knowledge from people who know more than us. We can talk about our struggles, and we can hopefully, help anybody who's listening to feel motivated in the same way and to stick with the journey.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, and it's actually the first thing to ask yourself. I think the first step is to ask yourself why you want to get into music. And when we say get into music, it could be music production, it could be songwriting, it could be learning a new instrument or anything. The first question, in my opinion, that you have to ask yourself is, why am I doing this? Before you even wonder whether it's too late or you start worrying, like would you want to pick up an instrument? Like what was it for you that made you think, well, I'm just going to learn about music production? All of a sudden, after a few years of guitar, how did it come up?
So for me personally, like I mentioned, I always liked to sing, and then when I started thinking about actually pursuing singing as a thing that I wanted to do, that's why I started guitar, because I never had any interest in being a good guitarist. I wanted to be a good enough guitarist that I could join a band where I had two skills instead of just one. You know what I mean? So, and still to this day, like, I don't know how to play lead guitar. I don't know how to shred. I don't know how to do anything cool, but I'm a competent rhythm guitarist. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what first led me into it. And now, yeah, it's so much fun picking up new skills, being able to be creative with them. It's great.
I agree. And for me, I feel like I kind of changed my mind over time. When I started playing with the band, at the time I was really hoping that we could somehow make it, and because we were not even going to college then, so we were considering like, maybe going full time or maybe really trying hard. And my opinion's changed a lot since then. I've always been drawn to music, as a listener, as a guitarist, or and now as a songwriter. But I feel like even though the theme stays the same, the direction kind of changed. Right now, like as is, I wouldn't want to be a full-time musician. Like I was lucky enough to experience some of the gigging, but I would not want to do this like every time, like every day for years. And I don't want the pressure of labels. I don't want the pressure of fans. Actually, I just realized that, okay, I like making music. I love playing in the band, but I don't think I would like being a full-time musician. And I feel like if you don't like the journey, then maybe you have to change the direction, you know? Because a lot of people fantasize about being a rock star or anything, but being a rock star is also about, carrying super heavy amps day after day, taking the car, just, like driving for 12 hours just for a 30-minute show. And that's something that we don't talk about, but it should be, factored into the equation and into your decision, right? So I feel like right now the reason I want to play music, the reason I want to make music is just to express some stories and some feelings that I want to share with other people. So maybe that when they hear it, they don't feel so alone anymore because they can relate to whatever I'm sharing, whether it's a story or a feeling. And that interaction is what I really like about, making music. And like in a perfect world, if I could make a living out of any music related activity, I think I would rather it be creating content around music, for example, with podcasts or tutorials or courses, rather than being an actual musician.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I mean, we are definitely not going to be the guys to be able to give advice on professional music production, on making it as your band, on touring, on getting famous, anything like that. Um, but yeah, you said it right in the beginning, we're hobbyist musicians, and that's it. It would be cool if a song that I made in my basement ended up getting some people to listen to it. That would be great. But yeah, it's really actually something I thought about for myself. Even if nobody else ever listens to any of my music, it will be cool for my kids to have it, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's rewarding enough. Like it's nice to be expressive. It's nice to share it with friends. It's nice for, posterity's sake. But yeah.
It's great to have a little legacy, even though it's for just your friends and families. It's already something to leave behind, and it's something to be proud of. Like releasing your first song is such a cool feeling. That's really great.
Hmm.
Like there's something I really wanted to talk about, and it's you ask this question to yourself when you're in when you're in a moment of doubt, when you're wondering, well, is it too late to start, or should I even consider doing it? My answer is always going to be yes, do it, because well, you can regret not doing it, but I've never met anyone who regretted taking the shot. Like I've met so many people who are 30 or 40 and said, oh, I always wanted to play the guitar, but I never actually did it. And I'm just thinking, well, just do it. There's still time. It doesn't matter if you're 40 or 50, you can always do it. Because if you keep going like in that direction, when you hit 60, you're still going to think, well, I've always wanted to start and play guitar sometimes. But if you actually start, you're never going to regret starting, because you're just going to discover something awesome. And even the process of learning, and when the first month or years of playing, when you're not as great as you wish you would be, that process is still fun, and you can still have visible progress, which is, I don't know, an awesome experience to me.
Yep, absolutely agreed. It's super fun. It's super rewarding. Yeah, and it's never too late. I went back to college as a non-traditional student when I was in like my late 20s, and it was awkward, but it was not a thing that I regret doing. It was a great experience, and you can always develop those skills. And if you're not going to be the next like child prodigy, who really cares? You don't have to do it for that. You don't have to compete with anybody. Just do what you want to do.
Yeah, the first thing is doing it for yourself, I guess.
Hmm.
And I feel like, things often look more difficult than they really are. I feel like, when you're a complete beginner and you have no idea of what happens behind the scenes, you go to a show and everything looks awesome. The guitarist always looks like a guitar hero. It looks like everything he does is awesome. The sound probably was engineered after years of research, while, he just pressed on a pedal, and then, well, all the musicians know that same fuzz pedal, and everyone knows how to get that sound. But, when you're a complete beginner, everything looks awesome and complicated and unreachable. Well, in fact, I feel like most things that look hard actually are just, a combination of very small and simple elements that only look hard because you don't have the basic knowledge to decompose like complexity, but in reality, everything is just an addition of small and simple and accessible things, you know?
Yeah, very much. Everything builds on itself. It's always scaffolding. Um, and yeah, there's no reason to ever assume that you should be at a certain place by a certain time. You know, everything, all the sounds that you hear, everything that everybody knows, you will get to eventually if you want to.
That's so true. And um, it makes me think about a feeling I have all the time. You know, when you learn something new and you realize it was easy, you don't even feel proud of it because you're just thinking, well, I learned the major scale. The major scale is so powerful, but it's so simple. Like, what have I accomplished? Even though, like objectively, it enables tons of options for you to play like solos, write songs. It opens a whole world to you. But because it doesn't sound or it doesn't look so complex after all, you don't feel like you made progress, right? So I feel like it's important to measure your progress and record your progress as well. So when you're starting, remember how it feels, not to know like how to hold a guitar. Should the head be on the right or on the left? Do I strum with my thumb or with my pinky? This is level one. And when you have a little bit more experience, stuff that you're learning is not very complex, but it's still progress and it's still a massive, a massive milestone in your progression. And
Yep, for sure. Definitely is.
I think, yeah. Did you ever struggle with this actually? Learning something and then realizing that it's not so hard, and then not feeling that great because, you don't feel like you know anything complex. You just learn something new, and
Yeah, definitely. I think you and I, in other conversations, have both described ourselves as like Renaissance people, or people who don't know what exactly we want to do. We don't feel that calling to do one thing, and I'm like that with music. It's I've always liked listening to music, but it's not always been the thing that I necessarily wanted to do. I've wanted to be an author. I've wanted to really get into like creating visual art. I've tried out logo design and graphic design, like all sorts of creative types of things that I have tried doing and wanted to do. And definitely when you start out at so many things, getting over that initial like beginner's struggle is so key. And I have not often done it successfully. You know what I mean? So I've definitely been able to identify with that struggle. But yeah, then it's so rewarding to see the simple things that start to build up into something greater, that you can see, oh, even the best people in the world have gone through exactly this. They've had this realization. And it's so nice. It's so rewarding to have that, no matter what field it's in.
I'm so happy that you're, like putting my thoughts into well articulated words and sentences, because I could not have said it as well as you just did. So I'm really happy that we both felt the same thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why I also don't like comparing like myself to others. And I feel like most people compare themselves too much, especially, with social media and everything. I mean, it's great to have inspiration. Like it's great to be inspired by other people. It's great to look up to people who are more advanced than you in a particular topic. For example, when you look at guitar specialists, they like what they're doing doesn't look human. It doesn't look feasible, but they chose to go into a route where they only focused on playing guitar, and we decided to diversifying a little bit. And that's not how you become an expert, but that's okay if being an expert is not where you want to go. So that's why it's so important to see other people who have skills that you don't have as a source of inspiration instead of a source of anxiety.
Yeah, for sure. And it's nice to see as I've started getting older, although I guess this really could have applied even when I was younger. The musicians and the people that I was looking up to were not the most technically proficient people. They just
Yeah.
honed parts of their skills. That's certainly, we were just talking about it the other day, was the case for like grunge music, for Nirvana. They were not, it was sort of akin to punk music, where you don't have to be an expert at your instrument or at your craft. You just have to work on writing songs. You just have to make really good things that you like that are different. A person that I listen to a ton now is Dodie Clark, and she is a young woman from England who makes like these beautiful little songs that are mostly just, they started out mostly with just her and a ukulele, which I know is, kind of a meme now, but whatever. Um, and she is not like, she's not a ukulele expert, she's not a guitar expert, she's not strings, not piano, not any of that. I mean, I'm sure she's awesome at all of them now, but especially when she started out, she was writing just the simplest songs that had awesome lyrics, that had beautiful little melodies that were very touching and moving and right up my alley. So it's so encouraging to see somebody who can play an entire song on two strings of a guitar and have it sound amazing and be like, well, I could do that,
Yeah,
So it's awesome.
totally. It's awesome. Like it's exactly what you said. I think you don't need to be a technical expert to release amazing songs. And when you look, at songs that were hits historically, not all of them have like crazy guitar heroes or like high technicity or technicality. And I feel like after maybe just a year of playing guitar, as long as you're putting emotions into your playing, you can come up with amazing music, amazing songs, amazing covers, and you don't need to do something that is technically difficult. And all the great ones will always say that the fundamentals are everything. And I feel like one thing that makes me really admire an artist is like a trait of a really great musician is that musician will make a simple melody sound awesome, like something that you can play as well, like even by ear, like you're going to reproduce that same melody, that same riff, but there's still something different, and that something different is the emotion that the player and the musician puts into his playing. So I feel like
Yep.
this is a really hopeful message that you don't need to be super technical before releasing quality music.
Yeah, for sure. And we're kind of just going like stream of consciousness here from topic to topic, which is, which is hopefully cool for everybody to listen to. But that kind of brings me around to something that I tell myself often, which is really with any creative pursuit. Um, Even if you are not the best at any one thing, you'll have your strengths and weaknesses. And the real thing is that's encouraging to me is no other person in the history of the world is going to put things together exactly like I have. Even
Yep.
if I'm playing somebody else's song, nobody can recreate that 100%, you know? So even if my music is not as good as someone else's, even if it's garbage trash, even if I sound like Biz Markie on the mic, like it's fine because nobody else can sound like that. Nobody else can do that thing the way that I've done it. And I think that's really, really valuable. It's better to have more art in the world than less. And the fact that nobody else can reproduce exactly what I'm going to do is just it's so inspiring.
I agree. I really think this is the key takeaway of this discussion. It's something that you don't need to convince me. I completely agree with that. Um, I feel like this is one of the most inspiring things about music is that no one has your voice, no one has your taste, no one is going to play the same way you do. Even when someone is playing a cover of a song, you're not going to play it exactly the same way. The guitar is not going to sound the same. There's going to be some rhythmic errors that actually make it sound alive, and that all these differences are going to give you like a tone or a sound that makes you unique, and that's really really awesome. And there's room for everybody in the world because people have different tastes, and it doesn't matter if even yourself don't like your music. There's someone that's going to like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is really awesome. And even about we're talking about songwriting. So a lot of people wonder if they should get into music because they think, well, my life is not extraordinary. I don't have any crazy stories to tell. Well, my answer to this is usually, well, if you have an extraordinary life, people will want to hear about it. And if you're just an ordinary person, well, people will relate to your stories because so many people are going through the same things, the same emotions. So there is room for everybody no matter what. There's no excuse, just do what you want, and then you're going to have fun. And maybe like things that you don't anticipate will happen. This is what happened with me all the time. I started playing music in a band. We played gigs. That was awesome. I picked up music again, and then I met this awesome group of people. Meeting people is also part of the process of becoming a musician. And yeah, it's something that we don't talk about a lot, but playing music is an opportunity to meet new people because you're effectively learning a new language, and it opens up a ton of possibilities and a ton of people to talk to, and that's awesome as well.
Hmm. Yep. Just like nobody's going to sound exactly like you are going to sound or look how you're going to look or whatever it is that you're making. Also, nobody else is going to live exactly your life. You know, everybody's experience is unique and everybody's going to put their own, that experience is going to color everything that you do, you know? So it's always worth it. It's always worth going after a new skill, going after a new creative pursuit, trying to put something in the world is always worth it. Unless you're going to do like white supremacist stuff, like don't do that. You know, like there's some of that. There's some stuff that's bad to put into the world, so don't do that. But generally, yeah, put your art out there.
Even if you're going through the same story as someone else, you're never going to tell it the same way. You know, how many love songs are there? Like, how many love songs? Millions, right? Like, and they're all different. So
Yeah.
there's always room for the same story, just told from a different perspective or using different words, different instruments. There's always another way to tell the story that is going to be refreshing and awesome and interesting. And that's actually like related to the point I was making before. Don't be too hard on yourself, because something that looks or sounds like plain or normal to you may sound awesome and original to someone else. You know, you're used to being yourself, you're used to your life, you feel like you're not living anything extraordinary, but that may not be the case. Awesome. So I think we covered a lot of reasons to get into music. I think we addressed a lot of different points of anxieties. You know, there's something I wanted to add on top of that, which is not only is it a great experience to do, it would be a shame not to start actually, or to delay getting into music, because as you said, everybody is different. So if you don't put out your music, no one else is going to do it for you, and no one else is going to get what's in your head out there, because you're the only one there. You know, you're the only one living in your head. You're the only one with your voice. So it would be a pity not to start. And I don't know. How do you relate to this?
Yeah, so my first degree that I got from college was actually in philosophy, and this seems like an unrelated fact, but I think it's related. And so my view of the universe is an objective one, which is that there are like objective positives and negatives in the universe, right? And not like the universe, like the universe is communicating to me or something like that. Which cool, if you're into that, that's awesome. But for me, I mean, like, so if you imagine a world, imagine a society even in which there's no art versus one where there is an overabundance of art, right? The one with the overabundance of art, that's kind of even hard to conceptualize, right? Because what would be an overabundance of art? It's always better to have more, right? And so if we're talking on sort of a purely philosophical scale, there's a reason to put more art into the world, because more is always better than less, you know? So if you can contribute to that, you're contributing a net positive to the universe.
Well, that's a really cool way to see it. This is probably a little. This is reaching a different topic, but putting your work out there, even if you're just a beginner, is something that I was really reluctant to do. But I also feel like I'm never going to be satisfied with what I'm doing, and if I keep listening to my inner voice, I'm never going to release anything. So even as a beginner or someone who's full of doubt, I feel like you should put your music out there, because, well, first of all, it's going to be awesome for you because you're going to document your progress, right? And even something that sounds boring to you will sound appealing to someone else. So maybe, out of the hundreds of songs that you could write before, being satisfied with your level, all the ones that are part of the journey to becoming, like an experienced songwriter or musician, like out of these songs, you may produce a lot of gems or songs that could have a lot of impact on other people. I often do this. I listen to music artist by artist, and then I go through their entire discography. And going through that process is awesome. I love seeing how they started as a beginner. You can hear that the first songs are unpolished, but it's okay. And then you can see how they evolve. And I think that's a great thing to listen to as well.
Yeah, definitely. One of probably my favorite artist of all time, and hopefully people don't judge me too harshly for it, is Bright Eyes, a guy named Bright Eyes. And he is I'd say like the early 2000s, he was kind of the poster child of like not quite relevant indie, and his first album, maybe his first two albums actually, were recorded with like a 4-track in a bathroom, and they sound like it. Like they sound rough. But they're such good songs, and now the music that he makes is orchestral and like has all kinds of different elements to it. It's gotten more complicated, and sometimes it's gotten just as simple. Like, but yeah, it's really funny to see his journey as a professional musician who makes a living, playing shows and writing songs and releasing albums and stuff like that.
I feel like the same thing is happening to us, though.
Yeah, maybe, hopefully, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying we're going to end up great with orchestral music and everything, but I'm
Yeah.
just, from, I mean, we've been playing our instruments for years, and we're probably not as good as we should be. Um, Definitely feeling like it. But when we started, like really getting into producing music, I feel like we changed our styles and we matured like a lot in just a few months. Like the first month, we're already like a lot of progress and a lot of evolution in the style of music, in the sounds that we use on our approach of writing songs, and this is going to change a lot, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. I still haven't even found a style of music that I'm making generally, I don't think. And part of that is because just like technical limitations. Like I haven't had a studio setup or like a proper microphone or anything like that. And of course you can record music into your phone and whatever, and that's awesome. But I decided that since I didn't have a setup, I wanted to just start making like purely digital music without any vocals, without any instrument, like live instruments, anything like that. And it's been cool, and that's what I've been making, and I'm sort of finding a style within that. And then eventually I want to go to, guitar and vocals and, the more like folksy stuff that I tend to listen to. And all of that is hopefully going to be an influence on whatever my style ends up being, and I'm excited for that. I think it's going to be cool to hear what I can come out with consistently, because now my catalog is just so small that it really, it's too small a sample size to know anything. But yeah, as I go on, I'm excited to see what it ends up sounding like.
Yeah, me too. This is going to be great. And like that's also one of the reasons that I think it's best to start as soon as you can. Like no matter your age right now, I think it's good to start right away, because you're going to go through a wide range of styles, of influences, of sounds, and like how you sound is going to evolve. So the earlier you start, the more different, like the more versions of yourself you're going to be able to produce,
Yeah, definitely. I didn't start this until I was 35 years old, and generally by people's standards, that's probably too late to do a lot of things or to, really get accomplished or to become an expert or whatever. But yeah, like we've been talking, like the whole point of this thing, just do it anyway. It doesn't matter. I might be an older guy than a lot of people who are getting into it, but it's still just as fun for me. It's probably more fun for me now than if I had been doing it in like my early 20s, because it would have stressed me out and would have, that sort of thing. But now I've got a wife and kids. Like I have a happy life. I just moved into this house not too long ago. Things are going well, and now it's a good time for me to start making music, and I'm glad that I'm doing it.
I know I probably sound silly when I'm telling the story where I felt too old at 15. But I'm pretty sure like there's going to be people who feel too old, even though they're 12 or even though they're 60, or like there's a wide range of people who are anxious about this. And like I agree, the older you get, the less likely it is probably that you're going to start, but it shouldn't be that way. I feel like, starting as an adult also has a lot of upsides. Well, first of all, it's your choice, and you know what you want when you're an adult. Usually when you start something, you want it, and you actually have the means to do it, because, well, there's going to be a cost. I mean, you can always start small, but depending on your dream, you may want to have, you may need different budgets. If you just want to play the guitar, just get any guitar you can afford, and that's going to be great. But if you want to produce music, there's going to be some costs, and as an adult, you can already start with at least like decent gear that you could not afford when you were a child. Like at least I couldn't. I think I had 50 euros to spend per year on music gear when I grew up, And now that I'm an adult and now that I'm getting back to music, I can actually get the gear that I need, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and that'll be a topic that we'll talk about later on in a later episode, is like what gear you might want to have to get started. My whole setup so far has probably cost me about $400, which I think is probably pretty good, pretty moderate for a lot of people who are trying to get into it. But when I started the class with you and all the other people, I mean, I had nothing. I think I had spent $100. I was using a free DAW, and I think the only thing I had bought was this MIDI controller over here. You know.
Yeah, you were already making great music with your computer that you already had, your gaming headset, and
That's right.
and yeah, that MIDI controller that you have. Like my cheapest MIDI controller costs 20 euros, and it's more than enough. I mean, all you need to do is lay down some notes. You don't even need a MIDI controller. You can do it with your mouse, and a lot of people do that. And
Yeah.
a lot of professionals still use their mouse to draw, like MIDI notes. So I feel like nowadays, I mean, this time is a great time to be a songwriter because most people have a computer or a phone. Like you even have apps to make music with your phone, and that's generally enough to start. There's almost nothing keeping you back anymore.
Hmm.
Oh, one last thing I wanted to add was
Yeah,
that
sure.
when you start something, the first couple of months, you actually learn a lot of things.
Hmm.
And even though you're struggling, especially if you're picking up the guitar, your hand is gonna hurt. Your fingers are gonna get blisters.
Yeah.
It's gonna be painful.
Hmm.
Uh,
Literally painful.
exactly. But even after a few months, you're gonna be better than most people on this planet, right?
Yeah, exactly. Most people have never started. So yeah.
Exactly. Most people have never touched a guitar in their life. So if you're just committing a week of learning, you're already better than probably half of the planet, which in my opinion is really encouraging,
Yeah, for sure.
If you
Yep.
keep comparing yourself to like big stars, well, of course, there's always going to be a huge difference and it's going to take decades to bridge that gap. But when you realize that after a few months, you can play maybe a riff or two, or maybe a few songs if you're investing yourself a lot, you're probably going to be one of the best among your friends. You're going to be good enough to play around a campfire, and you're already going to have an impact on other people's lives. Put smiles on other people's faces, and I don't know. I feel like music nowadays is so accessible that you can quickly get some results and get some first, feel good moments.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And those make it all worth it.
Exactly. Well, I think those are pretty good last words to finish on. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. Yep, I'm happy with what we covered. I'm looking forward to going forward.
Yeah, I think we started mentioning a lot of different topics that I really want us to deep dive on.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to having some feedback as well. So if there's any topic or any remarks that you wanna send us, feel free to visit our website at inspiredsongwriter.com. This has been a pleasure on my side. Hope you had a good time as well.
Yep, absolutely. Always nice.
Awesome. So we'll see you in episode 2.
Sounds great. See you then.